If you're struggling to portray an NPC the way it should be portrayed, then you're in the right place. I'm here to help with some simple tips to improve your dialogue game. Nathaniel Thomas offered the question today, which was essentially how to improve dialogue, but in particular how to do so for our more impressive NPCs, gods and great villains and beings of exceptional power. And so we're going to touch on how to improve dialogue as a whole, but in particular for those Billy Bads that you just want to come across as awe-inspiring. While I was brainstorming over what I might talk about on this topic, I came up with 5 basic ideas. So we're going to talk about giving NPCs goals, the catchphrase technique, body language, hinting at knowledge, and the power of silence. First up, giving NPCs goals. If you are wanting to portray an NPC, most of the time we get stuck in this rut with NPCs of being very reactive to what our players are doing. They're the stars of the show after all, and I definitely agree with that. But the NPCs we're trying to portray, when we're trying to put them into the world, we're not necessarily thinking of them as, or we shouldn't be thinking of them as tools that are being used by the player characters in order to get what they want, and simply as vessels for us to stuff lore, information, answers, or opportunities into. Now, they are all of those things as well, but when we're really laying it on thick and we're diving into our world building, we want NPCs to feel like real people, to feel like they actually belong there and like they are somebody different that the party is talking to than the other time that they were talking with a different NPC for a different purpose. And one of the things that really separates that is when an NPC is working its goals instead of just being a goal for the players. Just as some quick examples, a shopkeeper is looking to make a sale, and they're looking to make money. So when we're portraying that NPC, we shouldn't be simply spouting the base price for the things that are being requested of us. We should be trying to upsell. We should be offering an extra something that doesn't cost us very much as an incentive to pay the exorbitant price on a completely different item. We should be looking at these adventurers and saying, man, you guys are really looking pretty rich. Maybe we should up the price just a tiny little bit, pad a little percentage, and then, when we get caught at that, we should be willing to dump it down a little bit in order to maintain the sale, right? That motivation of making a sale and making money is intrinsic to the NPC merchant and allows us to push that agenda in a way that makes them feel more real. So if you take a moment to think about what agenda your NPC might have, then it will give you that opportunity to push the narrative and push back and forth between what the players are there to try and accomplish and what the NPC is trying to accomplish in the same situation. Secondly, the catchphrase technique. I tell people that I am bilingual because I grew up in Australia speaking English, and then I moved to America and had to learn English. My accent comes and goes of its own volition, though I can make the darn thing come out. If I want my Australian accent, I have to kind of make it happen. And to do so, I have a weird statement that I use, which is, "Hi, my name's Timothy and I'll be your server today." And the reason for that is because when I was learning to wait tables, my mum was in town. So my accent was on all the time, whether I wanted it or not, because mum was around and it was going to make, it just triggered that part of my brain. So I joke with people that your brain is able to contain multiple voices because when you are using that particular voice, you're thinking particular words. And so one trick to be able to bring out a specific voice is to assign it a catchphrase, something that you can say that you are confident about being able to say in that particular voice. And you don't even always have to say it out loud. Sometimes you can just say it in your head in order to be able to trigger that accent and work your way into that particular voice. So creating for yourself a simple catchphrase for every major voice type that you want to be able to try and use at your table can really help you to dial in those particular voices for the opportunities when they come. Speaking of being bilingual, I also speak Shameless Promoter, so please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Third up, and I don't know when this accent is going to leave, I apologize. Once this particular one's on, it does what it wants, so it'll probably fade before the end of the video, but we'll see. Body language. Your voice and the words that you use change dramatically depending upon a lot of different body language cues, and they also portray an awful lot of information. If you're lucky enough to be playing in the meat space in front of people, then they're definitely going to be able to see what you're doing. If you are playing via the internet, like a lot of my games, then I highly recommend utilizing a webcam so that they can see your posture and changes in that regard, because something like 70% of communication is actually non-verbal. It doesn't actually matter what your words are, and even of the verbal portion of that, the actual words you choose differ a lot from other like verbal cues of volume and pacing and all those sorts of things. But this 70% of just like people physically being able to see you makes a really big difference to the game, right? It makes a big difference to the personality that you are portraying. And so you can create for yourself some pretty simple tricks to adjust your voices and your dialogue simply by embodying your character a little bit with their physical mannerisms. So you can use posture. The prim and proper standing up straight, sitting up straight tends to drive my voice into a particularly British, I guess, side of things there. I hope I'm not offending anyone, but the upper crust just seems to have better posture, Whereas if I'm particularly slouched, then my voice gets a little bit crunched up in there, and I tend to start thinking and acting perhaps more furtively. If I'm looking around, then that's going to impact the kind of voice that's being produced also. Your mouth shape has a great deal to do with the kind of dialogue that you're putting out. Not only in terms of the sound of your voice, but also, again, in the kinds of words you're going to choose, the actions you're going to take. I like to use a very loose mouth when I'm talking as a guard, for a city guard for some reason, but I don't really know why, but I just think of them as being very like jowly voice for some reason. But it also changes how I dialogue and how I talk with people when I use these kinds of voices, because I tend to ramble a lot more, and I'm already a rambler, so there's that. Your hand gestures can affect your dialogue quite a bit. How you hold your hands can change how you use your dialogue, and definitely communicates a lot about the kind of character that people are dealing with when your hands are particularly flopsy like this, or when they're tensed and in pensive, sort of thoughtful moments. We tend to slow our voices, and the hands are literally, in ways, they're literally the reason why my voice slows down, is because I'm trying to embody the character just a little bit more. Taking those little steps can make a big difference. For particular characters, when you're going to have to come back to a character again and again, having like signature gestures in these things, having a posture that you always use, a mouth shape or a hand gesture, hand positioning, or just some kind of tick or scratch or itch that you use for that particular character can really go a long way. We've all seen the meme about the guy who just needs just a little bit more, and adding something like that can help you to come back to that same character and improve the dialogue of the character by improving your embodiment of the character. You can use props, whether real or imagined, to adjust the kind of dialogue that you're using. I can't help myself, but like have my little fake stogie for a mob boss kind of voice, and when I'm thinking about it, then sometimes it gives me some pauses because I'm thinking about my prop. Even though it's imagined, it's not really there. If you can see it, then you should probably get your eyes checked. But it just makes me think a certain way. Right? You can imagine the props, you can add the props, but either way, it will adjust and improve your dialogue. All right, hinting at knowledge. Now, this is more specifically to Nathaniel's question about how to improve dialogue when you're in a position of power and you want to come across with a particularly powerful persona. And the general idea there is tease, don't tell. Right? I know they say show, don't tell, but yeah, we're not showing, we're teasing, okay? Information that you have, if you are in the position of power, is valuable stuff. And by giving that information in ways that are not the read text that you've got from the book and that doesn't tell the whole story but invites additional questions, is a trait of the powerful NPC that works pretty well. By putting yourself in the position where people need to continually ask you for you to give them information, you are the one in the position of power. If they need that information from you, and you can then push your agenda in order to receive that information in order for them to receive that information, then the tease, don't tell method for knowledge gaining allows you to stretch that interaction out just that little bit and maybe get a little more of what you were looking to receive from the encounter from the NPC's perspective. The other one for improving powerful NPCs is the power of silence. Brevity implies authority. So obviously I have very little authority because I talk way too much, but outside of that particular perspective, which just sort of hits home a little harsh in this video, using succinct replies is one way to come across as being powerful, being very brief in the response that you give. Also, utilizing pauses that require people to wait for the information is one way to leverage the power of the knowledge that you have that they are looking for in a manner that makes your players just unconsciously feel that the character or the NPC is more powerful because they're in that subservient state of waiting. It's a little bit weird, but it does do things. You don't have to be terse in these interactions in order to use silences or to be brief. But if you are brief and mysterious and then you allow long silences, not only does that unconsciously make that change there, but it also gives you time to think. And sometimes we get a little too far into thinking for our NPCs, but at other times, having that time to come up with a good response is an important aspect of portraying the character the way that we want it to come across. Nathaniel, I hope that these have been a little bit more of a full answer than the message I threw for you into the comment section. I really appreciate you for submitting it, and for everybody. I hope that this was helpful for you too. I also suggest checking out my video on why bad voice acting is actually good, and there's a couple of points that overlap, but also a little deeper detail for you there. Thanks so much for watching, and happy adventuring.